But if you don't, you need to have this memorized. Root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2, and 1. When this is all true, when 1 is 1 for your hypotenuse, this is true. Do we understand that?
The hypotenuse will just be labeled 1 if that's what it is.
Well, this is your base triangle. The special triangle you need to memorize is that when the hypotenuse is 1, your legs for a 45, 45, 90 triangle are root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2.
Okay.
So if your hypotenuse over here, we don't know, right? That's missing. We also don't know this leg. All we are given is this. Well, we know in a 45, 45 triangle, our legs are equal. So what's this guy going to be?
Root 2.
Just root 2. Okay. We know this guy can't be 1 because this isn't root 2 over 2, is it? Right? So it's got to be some different thing over here. How do we figure that out? Well, you could use the Pythagorean theorem and plug these in for A and B and find C. Or you could know that when this guy is 1, this is root 2 over 2. So the relationship there is 1 to root 2 over 2. The guy over here is going to be x to root 2. What's the difference between these two things? 1's divided by 2, 1 isn't. So if this thing isn't divided by 2, okay, this guy is really just multiplied by 2. So 1 is going to be 2 over here. Very confusing. All this is saying that if this is 1, this is root 2 over 2. If this is 2, well, instead of dividing by 2, this is twice the amount there. So this is going to be root 2.
So it's either going to be 1 or 2? Or
I could make this 5.
I don't get it.
Okay, let me show you a different example. So I'll give you the easier example to start out. So if I say this is 5, okay? When this is 1, it's root 2 over 2. Okay? When this is 5, what are the legs going to be? Well, this one is just root 2 over 2 times 1. So if we take root 2 over 2 times 5, we're going to get what? Root 2 over 2 times 5. We get 5 root 2 over 2. So this is going to be 5 root 2 over 2. 1 times root 2 over 2 is root 2 over 2. 5 times root 2 over 2 is 5 root 2 over 2. If this was 10, what would this be?
10 root 2 over 2.
10 root 2 over 2. Is that simplest form?
Mm-hmm.
5 root 2. If this was 37, this would be 37 root 2 over 2, right? Which is simplest form. All this is saying is that there's a relationship. When this is 1, it's root 2 over 2. So when this is whatever, it's that times root 2 over 2.
So it's going to be labeled the hypotenuse.
The hypotenuse might be, it might not be. If I give you this,
Well, then how do I figure out if it's x?
what's the hypotenuse going to be here? This is the 45, 45, 90 triangle.
1.
1, because it's our base triangle. But what if it's this? What if I give you one that's like this? A little bit harder to figure out.
Yeah, I don't know.
So what you could do is use Pythag. We know 2 of our sides. A squared is 4 squared plus b squared 4 squared equals c squared. 16 plus 16 is 32. Square root of both sides. Square root of 32 equals c. Is this simplest form? Nope. 16 and 2. 4 and 4. 2, 2, 2, 2. A lot of 2's. They all go inside the jail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 2's. All in the jail. Pairs get out. And body bags, of course. 2 times 2 is 4 root 2. So this guy is going to be 4 root 2. So if I don't give you the hypotenuse, I'll give you these sides. Which means in that case, just use Pythag. Don't try to think backwards. But if I give you the hypotenuse, it's not hard at all, is it? If I give you the hypotenuse like I did before, like this guy, if this is 45, 45, 90, maybe the hypotenuse is 13. What's this side?
13 root 2 over 2.
This one's the same thing, isn't it? Okay? So if I give you the hypotenuse, easy, right? If I don't, use Pythag. Yes?
That will be on the final.
This one right here?
Yeah.
I think this is something you might have understood, and I just made you like lose your mind over this. It's really not that bad. If I give you the hypotenuse, you're golden, right? On a 45, 45, 90. If I don't, use p-thag. Last example I'm going to do, and it's going to be one of those examples where I don't give you the hypotenuse. If this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, okay, and this is a length 3, find the other two sides. Well, what's this side going to be?
A squared.
It's gonna be
3, right? Because 45, 45, these legs are equal. Now find this guy. 3 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. 9 plus 9 is 18 equals c squared. Square root both sides. Square root 18 equals c. 9 and 2. 3 and 3. Put them all in the jail. 3, 3, 2. One of them busts out, so we get 3 root 2. Positive value because we're talking about real triangles here. Do you know how to do p-thag? Do you know that these two sides are going to be equal? Then you will be fine. Do not stress about that. Okay? All right, so let's talk about the 30, 60, 90 triangle, which I think will be less confusing for you guys, surprisingly. 30, 60, 90. It's our other special triangle, okay? The most basic form of this the most basic form of this special triangle is when the hypotenuse equals 1. And let's call this guy 30, and this guy 60. I could flip those two, right? 30 and 60. It'd be the same thing, basically. The opposite of 30 degree when the hypotenuse is 1. So the opposite of 30 degree when the hypotenuse is 1 is half.
Is what?
Half. When the hypotenuse is 1, the opposite of 30 is a half. Do we have that memorized?
No.
That's the only one you need to memorize.
Wait. How is y2 half?
Y2? Y squared?
It doesn't look like 1/2, it looks like
Does it
Oh.
look oh, sorry. My handwriting is atrocious, so I understand.
It's still an upgrade.
I thought about when the first day I came in here, like just writing something on the board, like just nonsense and like horrible penmanship, and you guys would be like,
You used to write like this.
right, hey, so just to freak you guys out, and then I'm just kidding, right, and then just write something else with my beautiful handwriting. But I didn't do that because I'm nice. Playing jokes on people is mean. All right,
That was fun.
1/2. Do we understand when the hypotenuse is 1, the opposite of 30 is a half?
No, I don't keep you
Yep.
like
Cool. 60. You can either memorize root 3 over 2. Again, when the hypotenuse is 1, this is root 3 over 2. Okay? You can either memorize that or do like I do and say, ain't nobody got time for that. That's weird, right? Or if you forget what you memorized or you're not sure, do p-thag. We've got the other two. Solve for this guy. A squared is a half, right? Plus b squared we don't know. Equals c squared, which is 1 squared. Simplify. This is 1. This is a quarter. 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4. Do we understand how that works with fractions? This guy squares the top, and he squares the bottom. 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4. 1 over 4. And we didn't know what b was, so we left b squared alone. Do you see how I got there? Okay. Then we solve. To get b squared on its own, the first thing we need to do is get rid of this guy. Subtract 1/4 from both sides. Okay? We're left with 3/4, right, on this side. B squared equals 3/4, but we want to know b. To get b on its own, we have to take square root, both sides. B squared, with square root over the top, is just what? B. Which I should do in blue because I've technically changed it. Equals square root of 3 over 4. Well, that's the same thing as this. Watch, okay? It's the same thing as this. Root 3 over root 4. Again, the root applies to both, just like the square applies to both, okay?
So that can be her answer?
Is the simplest form? Root 3 is good, right? He's up top, he's prime, leave him alone. Root 4, what's the square root of 4? 2. Plus or minus technically, but you know what, I'll let you guys slide. 2. That's your answer. b is root 3 over 2, which I told you that earlier, right? You could memorize root 3 over 2 when the hypotenuse is 1, or you could figure it out if you ever forget. I've done this so much that I accidentally memorized root 3 over 2, because I've got to do it for trig, I've got to do it for you guys. But you don't have to. You could memorize this one. That's a lot easier to memorize. 30 is half when the hypotenuse is 1. 30, half, right? This one, weird, okay? All right, so let's get rid of this. And let's talk about, this is the triangle you need to have memorized, right? The idea that when this is 1, this is a half. When this is 1, it's root 3 over 2. If I give you a problem like this, and I say this is 30, and I say this is 60, I'm throwing you a curveball. Watch out. If I give you this, okay, and I tell you that the hypotenuse is 3. No, let's do 4. Let's make that a little bit easier. You'd be able to figure it out, but let's stick with 4, okay? What is this side going to be right here?
2.
Not half.
No.
Not 2. That's the 60 side. I flipped these guys on you. Better question. Reverse. It's okay. 30. The opposite of 30 is what? When this is 1,
60.
it's half.
I'll space it out.
So when this is 4, this is
Those.
2. Do you see how this guy is just half of the hypotenuse?
Mm-hmm.
It's this guy divided by 2. So take the hypotenuse and divide it by 2 and you get 30. That's all that is.
One.
In our original triangle, we had 1, and the opposite of 30 was a half. That means that whatever the